In this tutorial, we're going to point out some basic things about your computer. First of all, this is the desktop, this space that just exists when you first sign on to your computer. You can save files to the desktop, you can save folders to the desktop, and you can arrange those items on your desktop. To create a new file on your desktop, go to File, New Folder. Then begin typing the name of your folder. In this case, I'm going to use my first and last name. In graphic design class, everyone should have a folder on their desktop with their first and last name, using capitals for both their first initial and their last initial. You can see that as soon as I added my new folder, it became alphabetized with all of the items on the desktop. Your settings may or may not be set like that. To check that out, go to View, Sort By, and you'll be able to see exactly what settings the computer currently has for the desktop. So for example, mine is by the name, which is alphabetical. You could arrange it by the type of file, which means all the folders are together and all the files are together. You could also arrange it by the date that an item was last opened, which means the Melanie Brown folder that I just created would become that first folder. Or you could go date added, also the Melanie Brown folder would be the first folder. And then these other folders would also be in line with when I added them to the desktop. Additionally, you can go to the date it was modified. So anytime any changes were made to the folder, if you added any files or deleted any files, that would be reflected. And I can even go the date that they were created. So back when the first time I created a personal file, a school file, a Melanie Brown file, and so on. And there's an example of that. Now, sort by becomes very helpful and useful when you use lots of photographs to organize. If you have a lot of work happening at once, based on the title or based on when you started working with them, is a good way to organize those so that you can find your work. I also like Snap to Grid. That just means that it keeps things in line in a square. If I don't have that, if I have none, then I could randomly move these folders, and they really could even be quite disorganized or on top of each other, and even in that case I just mistakenly put that inside of the Melanie Brown folder, so I can pull that back out. But it won't organize them into a arrangement based on columns and rows. So it's pretty nice to have the Snap to Grid. I'm going to go back and turn that back on. And that's not cooperating for me. We're going to also organize it by name. There we go. Okay, so back to our files here. I've added a folder. I titled it Melanie Brown. Actually, let's go with kind. We're going to work with this photo right here for just a minute, because we're going to see how can we open a photograph in Photoshop. And that is by just clicking and dragging that photo right into the icon that is Photoshop that's on your desktop. If you don't have Photoshop on your desktop, I will show you how to add that, not to your desktop, excuse me, but to your dock. So if you do not have Photoshop on your dock, we definitely need to add that down there. As that's loading, that immediately is going to take that photograph and open it right into my software, right into my Photoshop. And that's how we can then begin to edit or change photographs and make all of our adjustments and learn what we need to learn within Photoshop. You might be using some of your own photos this semester, or you might be using photos that we find online. But either way, you want to be able to drag that photo right from your desktop into the software that you're using, and in this case, Photoshop. So once that file opens, it's going to place it on a layer. It's going to place it on a layer. That layer is going to be like our background layer or our first layer, and it's also going to be locked. And so to make any changes to that layer, we're going to unlock it. And this is taking just a minute.